18 minutes past 11 then. It is Monday morning. Lou Hannan through until 2. Let's talk numerology then. This is a subject that I've been interested in over the years but never really understood a huge amount. A lot of people think it's a bit sort of hippie and don't really understand it, talk about astrology and numerology. Well, let's get some facts now because Chris Stiles from Blandford Forum is with me, and Chris has discovered really a mathematical way of us being able to look into our lives. Chris, welcome to the studio. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Lou. Lovely to be here.
Now, we've been chatting a little bit off air a moment ago, and I didn't know what to expect when you came into the studio, but one thing I didn't expect you to say is you trained as a scientist.
Correct.
And you found out about numerology and you thought, this is going to be rubbish. Mm-hmm. And then you started studying it and you changed your mind. So tell me more about what happened.
Right. So my father was a mathematician and a physicist. And in our household, I grew up in an environment where the thinking was that 1 + 1 = 2.0. Not 2.01 or 1.9 recurring, 2.0. And he always used to say to me, Christy, you can chat to me about anything as long as you bring me facts, as long as you bring me proof, and as long as you bring me something that is driven by principles. And what he meant by that is, for example, if you take 2 atoms of hydrogen, 1 atom of oxygen, you covalently bond them. Every time a coconut, you get water, H2O. Therefore, that is a principle. It can be repeated, and it can be repeated over and over again. Now, I was introduced to numerology for the first time in 2009. It was rather an interesting experience. Being scientifically trained, coming out of the family I came out of, completing an MSc in applied ecology, then moving into the world of banking and working my way up into the equivalent of C-suite executives, to sit in front of a chap in a long purple flowing robe with a very, very long ponytail. I looked at him and I thought, oh, you've got to be joking. You've got to be joking. I'd rather shove pins in my eyes than have this. Anyway, he explained certain things around it which piqued my curiosity. Some of the things were really accurate. Some of them were way too generic. And because of how my bricks are put together, also I am autistic. Uh-huh. So I am always looking for sense, and not just a random event. I'm looking for something that can be repeated with regularity so that you know that you're actually dealing with predictive intelligence. However, being introduced to numbers sparked something inside of me. So I began doing research because I'm inherently a very curious little bunny. I was like, right. And I came across Chaldean numerology dating back to 2500 BC, Vedic numerology dating back to about 1500, and then came across Pythagorean numerology, which is about 500 BC. And this really got me thinking because, let's face it, Pythagoras was a pretty bright chap.
Oh, yes.
And what I realized is that a lot of what Pythagoras was doing was actually driven by triangulation. Right. Now that really, go figure, Pythagoras and triangles, and the hypotenuse. Yep. And I thought, whoa, hold on a moment here. What if I were to look at numerology and the numerology principles through a completely different set of lenses, which is driven through science and interrogating it through a critical thinking, logical mind, however, applying the principles of triangulation, where once you've got 2 knowns, you're able to create a third. Yay. And invariably, the unknown that then becomes the known reveals something utterly astonishing. Okay. So, Lou, I literally began to play with numbers. That's all I did.
Give me some examples then. You talk about the principles.
Yeah.
Tell me about the principles then and apply some of those to sort of us that are coming at this completely cold.
Right, so I put something out on TikTok a while back, and it just absolutely blew people's minds. So let's say, for example, may I actually make use of a known person and a known date of birth? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's
right.
Fine. Yeah, go on.
Okay, so when you look at numbers through a completely different set of lenses, like I do, you begin to realize that numbers are giving you clues. And when you see numbers starting to repeat, you realize that you're dealing with the equivalent of a pinnacle type moment. Now, this pinnacle type moment can either be very positive, it can be very negative. That's where the mathematical modeling that I do is required. But the bottom line is these are reveals that just pop out all over the place. So as I'm going to explain this, I'm going to encourage you to do your own maths in your head around your own date of birth.
So we can do this at home as well.
Yeah. So let's take, for example, Katie Price. All right. Now, Katie Price is born on the 22nd of May. Right, so a stock standard numerologist immediately says, 22nd, right, 2 and 2 is a 4, so that's the number 4. So therefore she's a number 4, so she gets put into a number 4 box, okay, and has all the characteristics that go with the number 4. I'm not going to elaborate on all this because we'd be here for hours, right? I looked at this and I thought, hold on a moment, there's so much more to this. Let's actually use triangulation. Right, so she's born on the 22nd of May. So 22 plus 5 gives you 27. Now, what I've worked out over the years is that 27 is actually a clue. That 27 is revealing in time the year 2027 because there is a synchronicity. Are you with me? There's a synchronicity, right? And because everything happens in threes, you now start to dial back. Okay? 2027, 2026, 2025. So there is a critical timeline in the life of Katie Price, right? So now we know that we're dealing with the numbers 25, 26, and 27. Now she's born in the year 1978. Right. 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 8 gives you 25. Oh, my word, that's interesting. So now we've got a double 25. Right, so now let's just do some Rambo maths, shall we? 22 plus 5 plus 1978 gives you 2005. Drop the zeros. What are you left with? 25. So just out of her date of birth, by applying some simple different thinking, you have got the number 5 repeating 3 times. Therefore, immediately you are now able to start applying some strategic thinking around that. What this is revealing is that 2025 is and will be a watershed moment in her life. Now you start to look at this through the perspective of what are the events around the individual, what trajectory is the individual on, etc., etc., etc. So you begin to unpack basic timelines, okay? Which is really taking numerology and exploding it into an entirely new dimension. Because the first time I encountered numerology, after I'm a very, very quick learner, very, very curious, and after about a month, I was utterly bored. I just thought, I'm sorry. And having been a C-suite banking executive, I thought there is no ways that you could put this kind of intelligence down in front of corporate bosses and say to them, this can help you with strategic thinking and planning. However, because of Pythagoras, I persisted because I was driven, almost obsessed with what is it that this man knew or sensed and what has got lost over the years. And so began this journey. And Lou, all I have done for thousands and thousands and thousands of hours is sit and through curious lenses, autistic lenses, neurodivergent lenses, interrogate numbers in order to look for patterns, codes, and sequences. And the astonishing thing is that suddenly I started to see repeating patterns. So, for example, just to come back to the example I gave, if someone's born on the 16th of April, 16 plus 4 is 20, so there's the 2. The 20. So immediately you know 2020. Now you start to dial back in 2020, 2019, 2018. There's a critical timeline in that individual's life. And I know that people doing this live on air right now will be sitting there absolutely aghast because they will be connecting with critical timelines in their life, critical events. And this is how it happens. Now I'm sharing with you just a fraction of what I do. Okay, this is like the equivalent of, if you will, a much, much, much bigger puzzle, 1,000-piece puzzle. And what I'm sharing with you just through this here are 5 or 6 pieces of it. And so it led me then into thinking, well, you know, what if we're not random? And it goes back again to Dad. And he always used to say to me, Christy, mathematics is the language of the universe. Therefore, and I thought, well, if mathematics is the language of the universe, which we know it is, then surely I'm an expression of mathematics. Now, there's a difference between being an expression of numerology, which in many ways is, if I can say this, dumbed down mathematics, as opposed to really exploding it out and saying mathematics. So then you look at yourself, well, if I'm an expression of mathematics, maybe my date of birth is not random and maybe my name is not random. And this is all, just remember, interrogative thinking, okay? Because when you are searching for something, you have to search for it from the perspective of zero paradigms. You literally have to open your mind and allow maximum creativity, where nothing is right, nothing is wrong, just everything is. So everything that was, everything that is, and everything that will be exists. And how do I tap into this greater intelligence, this greater architecture of life? And what it then led to is it led to me building and creating a mathematical model which synchronistically links your name and your date of birth. So this is really into the next level. And there was quite a struggle with that because some of the results that I'd get were wonderful, some of the results were not that wonderful. And then I was gifted a moment of tremendous insight by my wife and business partner, Suzanne. And she said to me, what about if you thought along the lines of Freudian psychology and went into the shadow dimension and began to work with shadow numbers? And so that's what I did. And it just unlocked, if you will, the equivalent of a data cube. And Lou, when I had completed this entire mathematical modeling process, remember, this is something that I've been busy with since 2010.
Yes.
Really got to grips with it. So since in 2010 I started searching. In 2017 I found. And since from 2017 through to 2023 I've been working and refining this predictive mathematical model. When I looked and understanding numbers the way I do at the architecture of my bespoke data cube, I sat there absolutely aghast because I could see all the critical moments in my life literally contained within this data cube.
Chris, I'm going to have to interrupt, so we're going to run out of time in a minute. I could talk to you forever listening to this, but you're now, this is the subject of your PhD, isn't it?
It is. Well, actually, the subject of the PhD, with still a few hoops to jump through with Bournemouth University, would be taking what I have created and now applying it into an even more rigorous scientific framework, which shifts numerology. In fact, I don't really use the term numerology much. I call myself the human futurist, and I am busy developing the discipline of human futurology, which allows us, using the mathematics of our past, to take an intelligent and informed view on our future, and therefore begin to think about it differently with and through numbers, patterns, codes, and repeating sequences. And it is all there. Lou, when I've worked with some top executives around the world, and when I present them with what I call their intelligent mathematical blueprints, they sit there and they say, I never dreamt that this existed. And these guys would not give me the time of day if my results were not laser accurate.
It is absolutely fascinating. Chris, thank you so much. If we had another 4 hours, we could have explored so much more, but I think we've just about, scraped the surface of it. I know you're online if people want to find out more. So your website, if people want to find out more about you online, is
humanfuturology.co.uk.
Excellent. Humanfuturology.co.uk.